Rhonda, help me, Rhonda. Get her out of my heart.
Good
Rhonda's
song.
the first one here, Facebook Live this morning. Good morning to you. You get the song treatment. Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. Paul Gerke alongside Jimmy Quinones and Vanessa Ramirez. I almost said...
Did you almost forget my name?
Who are you again? Van Ram.
Van Ram, V. Go ahead.
Thank you for joining us for the 12 Today After Show. The show after the show. We got to lead this show with the same thing we led the other show with, though. Hurricane Florence. Can we get an update for the people watching on Facebook Live? JQ?
It is a massive, massive system. How big is it? It's 500 miles across. And to give you an idea, Katrina was a huge storm, and that was 400 miles across. Now, how about if you were to compare it, say, to the state of Arizona? Well, there's Arizona. You're looking at about easily there, 340 miles across. And Florence is 500 miles. It's way bigger than the state of Arizona. And I have seen storms move through parts of the valley, little parts of Arizona that are huge, that might encompass a little part of Gilbert or a little part of Glendale. But 500 miles, it is immense. The track has changed a little bit more. It's moving it a little bit more to the south now as opposed to moving up to the Virginias. It's almost looking like it's going to make landfall somewhere between North and South Carolina, and it's going to go to the south. The models a day ago were showing it hitting more towards Raleigh, but now pushing towards Atlanta and just strong. The northeast section of this storm is always going to be the strongest. So pointing towards New York State, that's where it's going to be the strongest with those winds and heavy, heavy rain. So they could still get just plowed over in North Carolina.
JQ, how quickly can something like this change? Because you spoke a second ago about how the initial models had it going right into Raleigh and then kind of parking itself over North Carolina. But now it looks like Atlanta is suddenly in trouble. Looks like it might drift out into Georgia. Now, granted, that storm will weaken as it makes landfall, but at the same time, that's trouble for all three states there.
Massive. You got the tri-state area right in there. It is huge. This does not have to be a hurricane to do immense amount of damage. And right now, they can change within the hour. That was a good question. How often can they change? We saw our big hurricane last year in Texas. They were predicting that to drop to a Category 1. That thing flared up to over a 3, very strong before it made landfall. So this system has a long ways to go. It's 600 miles away. It'll make landfall tomorrow on Friday morning sometime. So residents, look at that. I don't know if I'd even want to leave.
We're looking at live pictures right now of the beach there. It looks so calm and beautiful. Yeah. Why would you leave? And that's what we were asking you this morning in the comment section. And thank you to so many of you that have already responded. We'll get to your comments right now. The question was, would you evacuate when told you need to get out of here, or would you hunker down and try to defend your homestead? We heard from some people this morning just packing the sandbags up against the front door and saying, this is our home. We're not leaving. And you have to understand that sentiment, even though, you look outside and you're like, why would I go? I mean, how bad could it possibly be?
Well, Jimmy, you said that for the people that are staying, that they suggest writing their information on their arm.
They're basically making it saying, look, you have to go. 1 million people have been evacuated, and those people say, I'm going to stay. They said, all right, take your arm, get a Sharpie, put your name on your arm and your social security number. So if they find you dead, they'll know who you are.
That's scary.
That's what they're telling people. They're trying to get the point across that this is huge. And there does come a point when these storms finally make landfall where they have to shut any type of evacuation down. There's nothing. They will tell you, you're on your own. We're leaving. We're out of here. You have 5 hours, 6 hours on your own to do this. But at the same time, I kind of understand sitting by your house because there's a lot of flooding that happens in my house here in Phoenix that I know exactly where to go. And maybe you can stop a big problem from happening. If maybe you can put a couple sandbags up or nail a board back down, but you're also putting your life into your hands.
How terrifying.
Well, Catherine says that she would stay. She said, come on, Florence, so ready for the rain. Someone who has been in many, this isn't scary.
Gloria says evacuate for sure. I don't know what's not scary about this, Catherine.
I would be scared.
Scary.
Yeah.
Leanne watching from Rochester, Minnesota. Hey, way up north. Stop by Tim Hortons for me if you're out there. If I could afford to evacuate, I would be out of there quickly. And that is a problem for some people. Not everyone can just afford to pack up the truck and get out of town.
Go to a hotel. They don't drop their rates either. You're going to stay at some place, some hotel. You're going to pay the full rates. And what if you got a dog?
Yeah.
A lot of places, shelters even.
Where do
we
you
don't
go
take
then?
dogs. That's why a lot of people will say, I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay. Or maybe you try to think of something cheaper. You go further inland. The freeways, too, have been closed. All the incoming freeways are closed. So both freeways are so that you can get out of there, outbound freeways. There's no gas in the area. You know, maybe I know people in Tampa that have stuck it out for stuff up there too, and
all that happens in Florida, my friend. When I was working down there, people take pride in defending their homesteads against tropical storms. A lot of people in the comment section sending thoughts and prayers out that way. Cindy, Lucy, Susie saying evacuate, prayers for the East Coast, take cover and watch closely. For those of you who are in the comment section right now that would stick it out and want to defend their home against a storm, why would you want to do that? What are your driving reasons behind it? Because I think there's a case to be made for a couple different reasons. I'm just curious what you're thinking this morning. And before we get to that, let's get to our In Case You Missed It this morning. We'll get back to Hurricane Florence in just a minute. This is a much lighter topic. It's going to be a real swerve in a much lighter direction. This is something that got us laughing on the morning show this morning on 12 Today, 4:30 to 7, Monday through Friday, about defending your ice cream. Take a look.
Ben & Jerry's has a brilliant way to secure your ice cream from sour roommates or your own late-night cravings. Whatever.
The biggest enemy to myself is myself. Absolutely.
Introducing the Euphora-Lock ice cream pint combination lock protector.
Come on.
As if you didn't... like you cannot trust yourself, can you?
Yeah, I don't need to lock myself out of my own ice cream.
It's an ice cream lock. It's really what it is, because stealing someone else's ice cream or your own in the middle of the night is serious business. You can get one yourself on Amazon for $40. $40?
I would not pay $40 for that. Expensive.
There is one minor flaw, though. If you are desperate enough, you can just cut off.
Yes! I've got a steak knife at home. I can cut myself into the ice cream. The lock is not going to stop me.
It's like, let me spend $40 on this, but let me just cut this off to get it off anyway.
I mean, $40 is pretty steep.
Yeah.
But this would be a hilarious, like, gag gift or something, right?
That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's
right,
all
is
it
a
is.
gag gift.
It's like, stop stealing my ice cream here.
Jerry's.
And then they just twist the bottom.
Who leaves ice cream about, though? Like, you don't take Ben & Jerry's pint to work.
No,
Well, first of all, you
it.
eat the whole thing when you get it.
Yes.
So you're not going to even need that.
Right.
The lock.
But how
know?
often do you get those pints and you think, oh, I'll eat this over the next, like, month?
Nobody thinks that. You're going to eat it tonight.
Yeah, you eat the whole thing.
Not the whole thing. Golly.
Let me save you $45. Just don't buy the ice cream if that's the case. How about that?
Just eat it in your car. Don't even take it home.
That's a different level of sad. Who hasn't eaten a pint of ice cream in their car? Who among us?
On a hot summer day, right?
An ice cream lock. Really?
And that's expensive. $40?
That seems like way too much.
Yeah, and like you said, you could just cut the bottom off realistically to get to it. So, I mean, it's not really helping.
How much
you
is the
out.
Cheetos lock?
Yeah, right? Just
The
like
onion
a bike
dip.
lock.
The onion dip. You
Just
know,
tape the whole
holder.
bag so nobody
Yeah,
else
the whole
gets it,
refrigerator is what you should do. Just put a lock on the refrigerator.
Yeah, so I definitely think that's too much money to spend on that, in my opinion. And like I said, I would just eat it before anybody else had the chance to.
You have to have some kind of control, something, or just throw it out. You know what I'll do sometimes if I'm craving something, I will grab a bunch of Doritos at the store. I'll pay $1.50 for that little meal. I'll eat like 5 or 6 or 7, and I'll crush the bag and throw it away.
No way! That's such a waste.
I know, but it is Doritos.
But it helps his waist.
Yeah, no, you're so skinny now, dude. I got to buy you some new suits.
I
You're gonna be
appreciate it.
swimming in all these.
I know. You want
Good
one?
job, Jimmy.
No, I'm
Small
way
beauty points?
bigger than you are now. Jeez,
you're
oh,
a big
Pete.
man. We'll see.
talk about your weight loss another time. Let's get back to Hurricane Florence for a second because
We have
people are
lots of
really just
responses.
popping in here. Damien says this is supposedly a serious news show. Damien, this is not a serious news show. This is a Facebook Live only show in which we kind of talk about some trending topics and things like that. Thank you for joining us for your first time. We really appreciate your viewership. We are talking about a serious topic, though, in Hurricane Florence. We have people here, Becky saying she has family in NC at the beach and inland, sending prayers to all of them out there. You know, Catherine, you brought up a minute ago, said that she's ridden out 4 storms, 4 hurricanes. This is not her first rodeo. Cynthia brings up a great point, saying there's no way, why would you put your children through this? If you've got kids and you're thinking about sticking out the storm, Cynthia says that's a horrible idea because it's going to be so traumatic for the little ones.
Yeah.
If it's not just you in your house, you know what I mean? Get out of there. Get the
I
family
agree.
and go.
You got to get kids out of it. And the biggest threat that they have to hurricanes, where people die the most, the biggest fatalities, it's water. They drown. It's storm surge. And what is a storm surge? Been trying to explain this all week long. It's like taking your pool. You look at your pool. Now overfill it by about 2 feet, 3 feet. Your whole backyard would be underwater.
Right.
12-foot storm surge on this one. So 12 feet of water in your backyard. Your whole house is flooded. Now, if that happens throughout your whole neighborhood and your whole region, now that water's got to go someplace. Now you have massive running water at about 10, 12 feet, and you can drown in that. So it's huge, and it destroys structures and everything. So
scary.
they're looking at a huge storm surge that's going to be coming up, along with the wind that's going to be there. But, you know, I understand. As long as kids aren't in jeopardy, if you want to stick it out, that's putting your own life into your own
Well, a lot
hands.
of people with pets, too, are saying that they would leave. Rosalinda said, I'll take my pets with me. I couldn't leave them behind. Someone else commented, too, I'm just going to take my pets and go because our lives are more precious than belongings. So they would leave their house.
Sleep in the car. What would you take? That's another question.
Yeah.
If you had to leave immediately, what would you? I guess it files and pictures.
Yeah, I think some people, I remember seeing past reports on them trying to prepare for a hurricane, and people take pictures, things that have sentimental value that they can put in a box and take with them, along with, you know, their family members and pets. So.
But yeah, this is, and they're expecting to make landfall on Friday sometime, early Friday morning. And we're tracking the path. National Hurricane Center is actually doing a really good job. Looks like it's going to hit now and go to the south. It'll hit North Carolina, between the North Carolina-South Carolina border, and then take a dive to the south with a lot of rain. Even if it drops to tropical storm status, the amount of rain that it could put down could be just devastating. It is a massive storm. It's bigger than the state.
I mean, 500 miles. I mean, and where's the most dangerous part in that storm? Is it around the eye or is it in the outside?
Always to the northeast.
Okay.
So yeah, I always say pointing towards New York State, wherever it hits, because so kind of towards the northeast. That's where it is, at least.
So if it does kind of duck into South Carolina, that part's going to be up over North Carolina anyway. So that Raleigh area that you thought might be dodging a bullet a little bit is still going to get crushed.
Oh yeah, exactly. It just won't be a direct hit. Anywhere around the eye is going to be powerful, but just to the north and the east is where the stronger winds and the more consistent weather is going to be, and that's the path it's going to take. And if it makes its way into Atlanta, I mean, that airport is immense over there. There's going to be, I've already had people say, hey, I have a daughter. She's going to be leaving from Atlanta tomorrow morning. Anybody, if you know anyone trying to go into that region or the East Coast, if you can get there today, or they can leave that area today, they need to, because they could be living in an airport.
Didn't we say some flights were already canceled?
We've had over 100 flights canceled today, over 200 scheduled to be canceled already tomorrow. This is, 2 days in advance. They're already canceling hundreds of flights.
Get out of there.
Anything in that region is going to be really tough to get in or out, starting at about midnight probably.
Yeah.
And it has not happened to me before, but I've covered a lot of stories where people sleep in airports. That's got to be one of the most miserable places to sleep. It's dirty.
Yeah.
It becomes smelly. The food costs a fortune, and you're stuck in an airport for days. So if you can get out, or you know somebody that wants, your daughter's going to come visit from here, and pay the extra money, get the early flight.
It's smelly, it's dirty, and the food costs a fortune. Are you describing Disney World?
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we're just
trying to make
fun.
light of it. Well, I want to get back to a couple of your comments here. Angel says, if you've been through Katrina, like myself, you go. You've seen the worst. I can't believe we actually have someone that survived Hurricane Katrina that's here in the comment section watching this morning. If you're just joining us, this is the 12 Today After Show. We start the show at 7:30 every day, Monday through Friday. Usually it's a pretty lighthearted show. We like to joke about trending topics and things like that. But this morning, Hurricane Florence is dominating the news cycle, and we figured we'd ask you this morning, would you leave if you were told to evacuate? And if so, what would you bring with you?
And of course, a lot of people said their pets, of course, their family members, pictures. Yeah, Peggy left a comment here. I really hate our long, very hot summers, but at least we don't have to deal with stuff like Florence. And I agree with that. I've never experienced a hurricane, so I feel just listening to everything and all the details that we're sharing, it's scary. It sounds so scary.
Diana says she has family in Kills Devil Hills. They evacuated their prayers for all the people in the Carolinas. Catherine says files and pictures, just like you said, JQ, along with the dog and the family, but they're in the car just in case. Sue says, I read that hotels are required to take pets when there's a mandatory evacuation, in fact. So hopefully that's the case at any hotel you stop by. I'm sure there are some that might give you a little pushback on it.
I heard a lot of people mentioning the hotels that definitely did take pets yesterday on some of the social media I was looking at. I think one of them was La Quinta, and they said, hey, bring it, they'll let you take your pets and stuff. So maybe. And we just hope that these storms can change in strength. And I would love to see this dissipate. I don't see that happening. I see it as a potential Category 5. And like I said, even if it drops to tropical storm strength after it hits the land, it could still dump so much rain right now, possibly up to over 20 inches of rain. I've seen 3 to 5 inches fall here in the valley, and it became a giant lake, and it was part of the valley. I could not imagine 20 inches anywhere in the world falling at one time, especially with an area with so many houses and so much development.
So we're watching video of people, filling sandbags and boarding up their homes. With this type of hurricane, how well would that really protect their house?
It can. You know, we all have vulnerable spots in our house, and once you have your house, you know, I know what parts will flood at my house. It can be good, but yeah, there does come a point where it's not going to matter. If you get enough rain and enough flooding, there's nothing you can do as far as that. But hopefully the people they have a place to go, because like I said, it's tough. Look at it. It's sunny out there. The place is vacant. Everyone's leaving. 1 million people have left. Where do you go? Hopefully you have friends or someplace you can stay for free. If not, it's going to cost a fortune.
We'd like to use this opportunity to allow you guys to ask any questions you have to Jimmy, who has been tracking this storm for a couple days now. If you have any questions whatsoever about preparedness, about the track of the storm, or the potential damage that it could do, get in the comment section right now and ask. A lot of you are sending thoughts and prayers to everybody out on the East Coast. Cindy makes a great point here, and I think this is the underlying current of what we're talking about. If there's enough advance notice, get out of there. Lives can't be replaced. Take what's important to you and get to safety, because, I mean, at the end of the day, of course, losing your home and everything you're working toward is awful. But you can't replace lives. And I know that's a tough decision to make, but this is serious business here. This is not the media being blowhards and trying to scare you. This is something that is on the other side of the country from us, and yet it's dominating our newscast this morning. That's how potentially dangerous this storm could be.
Wow. A lot of people are really commenting on this, sending their prayers.
Jimmy, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, by the way, but what separates a Category 4 and a Category 5 storm? Is it all just wind speed?
It's wind speed.
Okay.
It's pretty much what it is. I actually have a graphic.
Do you want to go fire it up?
Let me load it. It is a really good graphic on that. Basically, what we're talking about are the winds, but there's also a storm surge. So how high does the water actually go? This is a really big one. Right now, the estimated rainfall in that area, 8 to 12 inches. That's for that region right there. But let me put this right up here, and I'll show you as we load it here. This is a really good one for you. Let me see if I can pause it. Okay, let me just stay here and I'll talk about it. First of all, it's called the Saffir-Simpson scale. It's how we rate hurricanes. So a Category 1, you're going to have, well, a little bit of minimal damage, winds 74 to 95 miles an hour. And you'll see the waves. They'll be crashing pretty good on the shore. Then you go to a Category 2. We like to call it a Cat 2. 96 to 110 miles an hour, leaves blowing off of trees, branches down, still extensive damage with extreme winds. Then we move up to a Category 3, up to 130 mile an hour winds, extreme winds, and devastating damage at a Cat 3. Now we move to where we are right now in Florence, a Category 4. Look at that, catastrophic damage. You have 130 to 156 mile an hour winds. Notice how the water makes it penetrates deep into the inland areas, and then all the way to a Cat 5. Extreme winds and catastrophic damage. But right now, this is where we stand. We're at about a 4 when it does make landfall. So we are going to see houses that could come down along with trees, power lines. And once those power lines go down, it could take weeks.
We saw it in Puerto Rico.
System
yeah.
To come back up. So look at that. So that's what we're looking at. So yeah, two big factors with our categories, the wind and the amount of storm surge. How high is that water going to go?
Thanks for pulling those graphics up. This is live internet television at its finest.
So Karen has a question for you, Jimmy. Now that the storm has changed course, how will Norfolk be affected?
Norfolk, Virginia could still see some more rain, but it depends. If it goes to the north,
right?
Yeah, Norfolk's on the coast. So you could have a lot of coastal flooding in that area, and a lot of tourist areas, a lot of docks, a lot of shops, a lot of people. Who doesn't want to live by the coast? So once that water comes up, you could have a massive amount of flooding for Norfolk, Virginia. And it's probably safe to say the United States Navy, I would just speculate, would get the fleet's going to get out of there. All the major ships that they have over there, they will take them. And they can take them away from where that hurricane's going to hit. Their meteorologists are top-notch, too. But they'll probably try to get as many ships as they possibly can, dry dock, get your boats out of there. Because those boats will get picked up. They'll find boats miles inland.
Wow.
Just laying on their sides.
That was for Karen, by the way.
Yeah.
Chuck is saying even having this discussion here is wrong. That evacuation order is made because there's an extremely high chance of casualties there. Chuck, we're not telling anybody to stay at home by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something that people are doing there. And it's worth at least discussing the reasons why someone would want to do that, if for no other reason than to discourage them from doing so. I don't think that any of us on the couch here are pretending to say that it's a good idea to try to stick out the storm.
Idea.
It's definitely a bad idea, but there there are people doing it, and I guess it's important to understand their reasons, one. And two, you know, if we're ever in this situation, God forbid, what do we take with us? What's most important? You know, how soon do you leave? Because I'm sure there are people that have left in previous storms that turned out to be nothing, or they had no real damage to their homestead, and now are second guessing it when given that mandatory evacuation order again. Unfortunately, guys, we've only got a minute left in this show. We've got to wrap it up and get to a Today Show cut-in at 7:56. We do appreciate all your comments in here. Peggy says, great graphics, Jimmy. I agree, man. You've done an outstanding job today. Keep it right here on our Facebook page. We'll provide updates over the next few days. You can catch us online, 12news.com, as well as our 12 News app and social media channels. And keep the questions coming. We're happy to answer them for you. And thank you for joining us this morning on the 12 Today After Show. We'll do this again tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll probably be talking a little more about Hurricane Florence tomorrow, too. So be ready to roll. And if you know anybody out there, thoughts and prayers their way. Tell them to be safe and to heed those evacuation orders, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.